Welcome back. Remember DeepSeek, the Chinese AI chatbot that sent American tech stocks plummeting and turned the AI race basically on its head? Well, China could be on the verge of developing over 100 more DeepSeek-like breakthroughs within the next 18 months. That's according to a former top Chinese central banker. He says one of Beijing's top priorities is to close the tech gap with the United States and secure global domination. High tech could make up 18% of China's GDP by 2026. The spearhead of its military and economic power, they are gaining on us. They're gaining on us fast. It's something we discuss a lot on this show about who takes the lead in AI. Is it going to be the United States or China? Because, Tiffany, depending on who the country is, whoever sort of gets that title and that crown is going to be positioned to essentially be in more control of the world.
Yeah, I mean, love it or hate it, AI is here, and it's here to stay. And President Trump has been clear that we have to lead the world stage on this. You know, yesterday on Maria's show on Fox Business, the CEO of Bank of America was on there talking about the billions that they are investing in AI. So that's clearly the direction we are going. But it needs to be fair, and it needs to be fair use, and we need to make sure that China's not winning on this for a national security perspective. But not only that, so we can lead the world stage in advancements from our banking to global trade, all of it. It will be impacted.
And I'll just point out on this, because I always like to remind people that under Joe Biden, they wanted to regulate and strangle AI, basically handing over the keys to the castle right over to China. But I digress. Cheryl, there's a big conversation right now about the chips. Should we give them some of the chips? Should we not give them the AI chips? Should we give them the lower grade AI chips? Are they going to copy us like they did with DeepSeek? Personally, I think, I mean, the Chinese are obviously not stupid. Whether we give it to them or not, don't give it to them, they're going to figure it out.
Well, I mean, and look at these companies, look at your NVIDIAs of the world. I mean, either these great American companies sell the chips and make money and everybody wins and more jobs are created and the stock goes up, et cetera, a 401k goes up, or you do what, I'm so glad you brought that up, the ineffectiveness of the Biden administration. I mean, they tried, it was that old playbook of we're just going to cut them off. Look, the Chinese have made it very clear, and they've taught us this for decades now, that they have no problem stealing anything and everything that they can. And if they can't buy it directly from the United States, they're going to buy it through Taiwan. They're going to buy it through Vietnam. They're going to find a workaround, and they always do. You can't trust China.
In the conversations about China and tariffs, Lou, we have talked about the position that China's in. They sort of have a little bit of a house of cards economy. You can't trust the data that's coming out that hasn't been great, by the way, which means it's really a lot worse than it appears. They've got a housing sector and a real estate sector that's still really struggling. They've got population issues that don't give them the workforce they need for later on. So when you think about AI potentially making up 18% of China's GDP by 2026, this is more important for them than it is to a certain degree. It's important for us too, but it almost feels like this is their last lifeline.
I'd agree with that, but I go back to the beginning. Don't trust the data coming out of China. I wouldn't trust this AI data either, because if you look at it on the face level, right, it's quantity over quality. China had the most AI patents last year at about 13,000. The US had about 6,000, but those patents aren't being cited very often. The US patents are being cited more, 7 times more, which means they're more innovative.
Interesting.
So I think you got to remember that this is early in the race, like a horse race. The lead changes frequently. I think I remember one CEO saying in the AI race, the leadership changes every week, week in, week out. I think last week we were here, I was telling you about a friend that's been a coder that is now using AI to do 85 to 90% of his code for his startups. I was with him this weekend, he's using it 100%. So the pace of innovation is accelerating. And to Cheryl's point, why not enable NVIDIA to sell chips to China, generate the revenues to reinvest in innovation so that it ends up here and benefiting the US
So
economy.
wait a sec, if you're in a horse race, and I agree, it's kind of like that. Why do you feed your competitor's horse? That's what you're doing if you sell.
I've never seen a horse race where they're feeding him in the middle of the race.
No, but they were training these horses. Why would you be giving your competitor the best?
Not the best analogy then, maybe is what you point out.
Material, but I think that's it. I mean, like, we control what we can control. I think the president is trying to create an environment in the United States which is the most dynamic for R&D on the globe. Okay. If China's a communist country, I don't think by definition they can ever do that, because they're always going to have political considerations in the middle of whatever. That's why they're going to have 13,000 patents,
right,
and nobody cares
the patents
about them.
is the key. So because they're public, there's an 18-month lag. They're inevitably going to get. They might not get the chips, but they're going to get what the chips are based upon eventually, and they're going to use that. They're going to pour enough resources and money into it to catch up and see the innovations. You got to remember, a lot of AI is software based, right? It's hard to protect it with patents and intellectual property. It's a copycat space. I mean, DeepSeek was open source, so we could see exactly what they were doing. Don't you think everyone then levered that to go up with the next level of innovation?
But
so,
well, if it's for real, they did. But a lot of people said DeepSeek was
agree.
kind of a farce, which was the point you made originally. They got 18 new DeepSeeks. Yeah, but what was the original DeepSeek?
Right.
Well, but to Jackie's point, though, I wonder if this goes back to the trade deal with China. You know, you brought that up. I'm wondering if this is kind of a component of the negotiations. I mean, there is a meeting today. I don't know. I don't know.
I think it absolutely is, and it has to be for us. And I think we have to be very careful in how we deal with China. They still are intellectual property all the time. They can create fake illusions to lure us into a space that we think we need to be selling to them. So we need to be very, very careful with how we lead on this. I think President Trump has the leverage now with them. And is still talking to them about tariffs. And I think this might have implications in those talks.
And Trump has put together a pretty solid team to handle this moving forward, to sort of execute his vision. David Sachs, the crypto czar, you know, AI is going to be a part of that domain as well. We were talking about the energy needs. A lot of this stuff will interface together. But he tweeted this, positive ruling for AI. There must be a fair use concept for training data or models would be crippled. China is going to train on all the data regardless. So without fair use, the U.S. would lose the AI race.
He knows more than I do. Well, look, David Sachs knows 10 times more about what I know.
Both of us combined.
But I'm really concerned about AI models ripping off data from all of us, and all of a sudden you look and oh man, that AI model is saying things or doing things, and if I'm a creative type, I can directly trace it to something I've done or I've created, and I'm getting no compensation for it. That makes me a little bit nervous.
Well,
I understand it's a race, but that makes me very
No, you bring up an important point to being able to have an audit trail that's related to the data search, right? Where is this information coming from? It's like anything that you do in terms of legal precedent, right? Go back to the source. Let's go back to the source. We need to have that openness so that we can find out where these models are using the data, where they're getting it from, and then question it, because we're finding out, you know, AI hallucinations. It's an imperfect software system that's going to fill the gaps. We've got to make sure it doesn't fill it with
We could go on and on.